Good evening, my name is Kristen Last. I'm the town manager with the town of Westford. Welcome to the pay-as-you-throw informational session. We are both in person at the Stony Brook Middle School as well as on Zoom. So thank you for joining us in person or in Zoom. I'm joined by Select Board Chair Tom Clay, Select Board Member Noel Donovan, and Assistant Town Manager for Strategic Operations Mike Edwards. And we have about a 17 to 18 slide presentation that we'd like to give. And then, so our agenda tonight is we've done introductions. Select Board Member Clay is going to give a bit of history of why we are where we are today. We're going to talk about why we're at the pay-as-you-throw level as a proposition regarding the state of the state and the state of Westford's reality. We're going to talk about the hybrid pay-as-you-throw program description. Some of you maybe have been on our website and have explored that a little bit, but we're going to go into it detail this evening. We're going to talk about the impact on Westford households, if any. Then we're going to talk about where does the bag fee go if you are using the overflow pay-as-you-throw option. We're going to be talking about a new proposed position to help implement this process as well as implement other efficiencies in the town of Westford. We'll talk about the consequences of not transitioning in terms of pay-as-you-throw, and then how you can learn more and answer any of your questions. So with that, I will turn this over to Tom Clay for some more information.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to hold this here. Can you hear me okay? I don't want to blast everybody. Is it better if it's closer? Okay. First, just thank you for being here tonight. It's great to have this kind of turnout. Thank you if you're joining us online. It's a pleasure for us to be in the company of people who are so civically engaged, so thank you for that. I think because I was here when a lot of the concern over the rising trash budget, kind of our ongoing budget challenges, providing the level of service we'd like with the resources we have, came up, I think I was tapped to go ahead and go through the history here a little bit. Basically, we'll have some slides that cover this too, but by way of background, trash is a major expense for the town, and it's been going up faster than the Prop 2.5 limit. We'll see later on that it's been growing at something like 5% CAGR. So it began to be an issue that we saw that if we did nothing and the trash cost kept going up faster than the availability of new funds, it was gradually going to begin to eat into other services. So every year that the trash cost would go up and we didn't have any solution for that, that was less money that we had for education, less money that we had for first responders. So this has been a long-standing issue that not just Westford faced, but we faced. So those of us that were deep in the budget weeds, this was sort of a persistent problem hanging out there with sort of an unaddressed solution for many years. So starting all the way back in 2021, this was becoming more than just an issue that was kind of what we were aware of. It was something we began to talk about each year of the budget cycle. Like, what are we going to do about this problem? We're very lucky to have the budget task force come on board. So for those of you who don't know, a bunch of hardworking people from school committee and finance committee and select board and people at large spent a good year, hundreds of hours, doing lots and lots of study, benchmarking. What is Westford good at? How do we compare with our peers in terms of services? What do our peers spend on these different line items to kind of get a sense of where are we kind of in the green zone, like we're very efficient for the services we provide, and where are we not as efficient? And that led to a whole bunch of budget suggestions that we've been working through and adopting. At this point, we've worked through a large portion of the Budget Task Force recommendations. One area of focus for the Budget Task Force was this issue of trash. How do other communities do it? How much trash do we generate? So just trash math, we have two big pieces of cost related to trash. One is what we pay the provider like Harvey to go pick up the trash and pick up the recycling. And then we actually have to pay by the ton to dispose of the trash. So in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the most common thing is to actually have it incinerated. So every ton of trash we collect, we take to a collection point and then someone burns it up. And believe it or not, that is the cost-effective solution here in Massachusetts because there's so little land available for landfill. Most of the landfills are closed. The alternatives that we've looked at some points in the past is trucking it, putting on a train and shipping it somewhere where it can go into a landfill. That's not really cheaper. So we're kind of where we are. So the levers we can pull are negotiate like hell to get a great deal with our carrier, which thanks to Christina and others we were able to do in this cycle. And then the other is just produce less trash. Because every ton of trash we don't generate as a town is one ton we don't have to pay to keep these burned up. So the Budget Task Force looked at what are other people paying for this carrier cost. That led us to negotiate a very favorable contract with the carrier because we saw there were some other towns that were getting a better deal than we were, so win there. And then we looked at what kind of situations do other towns have that generate less trash. One common thing that we saw that our peer communities that generated much less trash per household were doing is they had some sort of economic incentive to produce less trash. So they had some version of pay-as-you-throw. I think on average, the communities that used pay-as-you-throw were generating something like a third less trash than peer communities that weren't doing some sort of pay-as-you-throw. And so pay-as-you-throw, and we'll describe the mechanics of this particular version of pay-as-you-throw, had sort of the several benefits. One is it generally let people be careful, use more recycling, use more composting, find ways to divert the trash stream, and just produce less trash, and that was a good thing. And it also introduced an economic incentive. So if people were generating a lot of extra trash, could be just because they were having a big party, could be because they've got a lot of little kids, they got a lot of diapers. For whatever reason, if they're generating more trash, once they get past the 35-gallon tote volume, they would pay for that additional service. Not unlike people pay if they used more water than their neighbors, or use more electricity than their neighbors, if you're generating much more than you would take on part of that cost. So the Budget Task Force didn't propose a specific strategy, but it did give us sort of a way, kind of a roadmap to look at different approaches different towns could take that might lead to a better outcome. And lead us to a position where we no longer were seeing our available funds for education, first responders, and other important needs continually erode year after year. So that gave us hope that there were some good solutions that were out there. We didn't have to invent something from whole cloth. We did a series of surveys to understand, and Mike did a lot of this work, and we're going to go through a lot of this in detail today. I know we've seen it in many past presentations, but lots of survey work to understand how much trash are people generating, what preferences do people have, all the inputs we needed to try to design a program that for most people will be no additional cost, and will open up new resources in terms of ways to divert the waste stream and be more efficient. And so all that good work kind of led to the program design that Mike is going to talk about today. We had a bunch of information sessions. This has been in many public meetings, so not a new topic for anyone that's been involved in town budgeting, to kind of see how we move through understanding the options, what are some of the benefits, getting the good information to do good program design, coming up with a candidate program. And Mike presented a few options, different directions we could go if we wanted to stem this trash budget runaway bleeding. And we believe that the one that we picked is the best balance, and we'll sort of explain why we think it's got the right feature mix for addressing the trash issue, giving good incentives for being more efficient, and also we think giving us some of the economic benefits that we're hoping for. So the Select Board has voted for the plan that you have been learning about. We'll see more about tonight. We sometimes get questions about sort of authority and like who decides what. So for those of you that are about to come join us for town meeting, you know that everyone who comes to town meeting essentially is the legislature for the town. You get to vote on all the budget items, and we'll walk through all those together and talk about a couple other issues this Saturday when we all get together. The Select Board by statute has authority over a set of things related to fees. So for those of you who remember the stormwater fee, when we first basically had to meet this obligation to do all the stormwater work that we've been doing, we had to add that additional fee on people's tax bill. So the Select Board has the authority to administer fees related to certain kinds of service. And so the town meeting controls the overall town budget and the levy, but for certain kinds of fee service issues, the Select Board has authority over setting those, setting policy related to those. I gave you a couple of these numbers at the top, but you just for people who like math like me, if you look over the past 10 years, trash and recycling has grown at 5.7% compared to the general fund increase of just over 3%. The dollar numbers, we're now spending $823,000 more for trash than we were 10 years ago. So it's a meaningful amount of money, and it's really starving us from some other services we'd like to be providing. You can see the general fund has also gone up too during that time, but not as fast as the trash budget's gone up. So the trash budget's been going up much faster. And it's a meaningful part of the total fund. So I don't know if well, it's gone up from 1.6 to 1.8% of the fund, so it's increasing the way I described it. I don't know if that sounds like a big number, but that's quite a big number. So what, I guess in this, pop quiz for Mike, so in this fiscal year, what's the trash budget? We have the two pieces together.
2.7 million.
Okay, so 2.7 million. So that's not an insignificant amount of budget that we need to be managing carefully. The next, we've got a couple graphs that more or less say the same thing, so you can enjoy those at your leisure. We'll make sure these slides are available for you to take a look at. And then I think the last, is this my last slide, or are we handing this over now to Noel?
This is your last slide.
This is my last slide, okay. You can tell we've been preparing all that. Again, trash is a meaningful part of the budget. It's a problem that needs a solution of some kind. We think that we've designed, Mike's designed a program here that we think gets to the right balance point. Nobody likes adopting fees, change is uncomfortable, but if we don't make a change here, we're going to see continued erosion of other critical services that I know we prize in Westford and are important, because we hear that from you over and over again. Another fact is that 84% of the town's budget increase was dedicated to trash recycling contract increases. So we had a year, in some years the town overall budget doesn't go up very much, because the town budget goes up by 2.5% in the core levy. There's some new growth added in. There's some other things that happen. Some of the numbers can go down year to year. We get some state money that can go up or down. So in some years we have a pretty small general increase. So in this fiscal 25 budget, 85% of the budget increase that we had available had to go to trash. So just another example of how this really takes a big bite, and we like to be using money for other services for you. Okay, we're going to have questions at the end. I think now I'm going to pass this over to my colleague Noelle. She's going to go through a few more of these backup slides. Noelle.
Thank you everyone for being here, and everyone who's joining us on Zoom. So I'm Noelle Donovan. I am one of your select board members, and I'm going to be talking about why pay-as-you-throw and the reality of that in Massachusetts. The Massachusetts DEP is requiring 30% reduction in the trash by 2030. So cities and towns are expected to reduce their overall tonnage by 2030. And every year we're having more materials banned from trash pickup, such as food waste, textiles, mattresses, electronics, and other items that can no longer be thrown away. And Massachusetts is running out of places to put all this trash. As Tom alluded to earlier, landfills are closing. We're running out of space. We're looking into shipping things out of state, which is another added cost. And this is actually a Massachusetts suggestion to switch to a pay-as-you-throw. So folks are paying for what they throw away. It's just like a service, as Tom said, as in electricity and water. Anything beyond the 35 gallons that is allowed, it is up to the residents to pay for that added tonnage, so that it is no longer taking up so much of our tax levy to pay for trash. And without this change, the costs of the trash are just going to keep going higher and higher. So the 54%, I believe it was, that went up over the last 10 years, that number is just going to keep rising. And with the limited space to put this trash, that is going to cause the increase in the cost for this. So this really needs to be done sooner rather than later. So a little bit of discussion about our pay-as-you-throw program. It is going to launch in July of this year. Trash bins will be delivered to your homes by June. Each household will receive a 35-gallon trash bin at no charge to you. And it will be delivered to your house, and this is the basic service. Anything beyond that has to go in the pay-as-you-throw bags. These bags are right over here. I've heard a lot of comments around town that this is just more plastic. Why are we creating more plastic? This is actually a starch-based bag. So it is not just another plastic bag going into the incinerator. It is a little bit more eco-friendly. These bags are $2.75 a piece. They can be purchased in bulks of 5, I believe. And they're going to be available at local stores, department stores, not department stores, hardware stores around town. And the stores are not being charged, and they're not making any revenue for this. A lot of stores actually would encourage these bags to be sold at their locations because it gets people in the door, and it gets people buying more things that they might not regularly buy at that store. So this is bringing more revenue into the town as well. There will be no weekly, recycle will not change. We still have unlimited recycle every other week. And with the trash bags that are purchased, there's no limit to how many you can throw away. Right now, we have a 96-gallon limit on trash. With this program, you can throw away as many of these bags as you would like. If you're doing a clean out of your basement or your garage and you need extra trash sent out, you don't need to get a dumpster. You can use these bags, and it actually is a lot more cost effective. So there are going to be no other changes to curbside recycling. And the revenue for these bags, within the first year, the startup cost for this will be covered. And beyond that, it is revenue that we are hoping to use to expand our recycling services, to expand looking into composting and having recycling services that we already have more times during the year. So it will give residents more of an opportunity to throw things away in a more eco-friendly way. So let's see, why hybrid pay-as-you-throw model? The select board goals. As a waste reduction tool, this 35-gallon bin, so when I actually used to live in a pay-as-you-throw town, and we did not get a 35-gallon bin. Everything had to go in the pay-as-you-throw bags. And I was in my mid-20s, and it had never occurred to me to think about what I was throwing away or what I was buying. And this program shifted my mindset as to what I was buying, how it was packaged, what I was throwing in the trash. I started composting, recycling more, going to more recycling opportunities that the town offered. And that's really my hope for this program, is that residents will think more about what they're throwing away, how they're purchasing, and what they're putting in the trash versus the recycle or the compost. This is a cost-effective way to allow residents to dispose of excess waste, as I had said. And this is a good way to shift the tax burden away from those who don't use our trash services, apartments and commercial, and anybody that uses a dumpster. Any any apartment that is more than 4 units, they generally use a dumpster, and they pay the same taxes as all of us and do not get the services of the trash pickup. So this kind of balances that out. And this, again, is another revenue tool, around $300,000 a year projected in revenue going forward past the initial startup costs.
Yeah, we've got 275 in there for this coming year, and I would add to that the board has been very clear with us from the beginning that that's not the goal. This is not to be a revenue generating program. It's really, those are pretty much listed in order of priority. So I think that's important, that really the first priority is looking at it as a waste reduction tool, which has obvious financial benefits to us as well. So.
This is sort of a fine point, but I think of this more as a cost increase offset, because costs are going to continue to go up for the basic trash service. So for me, this isn't really revenue, it's helping to offset and slow the increase. We really need the increase to be below what the levy increase is, or else we're going to continue to eat away at other services. So it is revenue, I think, in the way we do the town accounting, but I would view it more as just slowing the increase.
Yeah, and I would build on that just a little bit. Thanks, Noel. What Tom said, I think, is a great point, that the way we built the program and the reason that we're doing a hybrid program, and this is important for folks to understand, is we've essentially carved out the portion of trash and recycling that the levy can support. And we've identified the portion that is growing at a rate higher than what the levy can support, and that is the portion that is funded through pay-as-you-throw. It's not the entire trash. It's not everything. It is at a 3% annual increase, we can sustain our current program if people are at that 35-gallon limit, which actually is the average across Westford households if you take every household that receives the service and divide it into our total tons per year. So Noelle did a great job of kind of going through what the goals are. I want to speak a little bit about how the program meets those goals. So again, this comes from what the board told us. It was very important that we had a basic service that stayed under that levy. So by having a combination of bags and a cart, that's really the only mechanism that we can come up with that allows that to happen. Basically, the town branded cart, that's your free service, that's going to be covered under the levy. We believe, based on everything we've seen, that that is sustainable under the current levy growth rate, which is around 3.1% a year, and what we see on our costs. The excess goes in those bags. So this kind of a hybrid program lets us preserve that basic level of service. It's fair and flexible. Equity was an important thing for the board looking at this. And like Noelle mentioned, we've got businesses, we have people in apartments, we have multifamily of 4 and greater units that have no access to the service, yet they're paying the same amount of tax as everybody else. So allowing this to kind of reset and focus just the excess on the users of that system is a way for us to begin transitioning away from that. So the other piece that we've got is we did a fair amount of outreach early on, going back to October. We've done 2 surveys. Both of them have almost identical data in terms of what households need and what they generally use on typical weeks. So we tried to do the best to really balance this and use something supported by resident input. Encouraging waste reduction, like Noelle said, you move into a program like this. I live in a pay-as-you-throw town. I don't get the benefit of a 35-gallon free. I pay for every bag that I use. And it took me a little while moving from Alabama, where I could throw away anything I wanted, to a town that's charging me $2.75 a bag. I'm a family of 4, 2 teenagers, a couple of dogs. I use 1 bag a week on average. Christmas, we blow it out. Parties, things like that, we use a little bit more, but it's good to have that option. But it took us some time to adapt and to try to figure out, all right, how do we buy better packaging? How do we have less waste around the house? How do we get good composting? We don't go nuts, we're reasonable, but we have reduced down to about a bag a week. It's operationally practical, and I think this last piece about being future ready is important because this system is scalable. And that's one of the reasons we really looked at it, because we believe that at least with the basic service, the way we have everything set up right now, we can run this operationally. Most communities our size that run solid waste and recycling, they've got a dedicated person, a solid waste coordinator or a DPW person. This is what they do, is they deal with trash and recycling. We have nobody. We can sustain this with our current staffing. When I talk about the future ready and the scalability, I think that's where we get into what I'll talk about a little bit later in terms of the operations analyst. This is a scalable system. You have to kind of think about this modular. That cart is the first piece. If we choose to look at different options down the road, like additional carts, like variable size carts, we can do that as long as we recognize it will be much more operationally complex, and we have to be able to staff appropriately for something like that using the program revenues to do that. So I think that's an important thing for people to keep in mind. Kristen, if you go to the next one. So impact, and this kind of goes to our survey, and it also goes to really every data point we could find. And I'll be the first to say, the surveys are not statistically valid. They were not randomized samples. We did not pay $10,000 to hire a company to come in and do the survey work where we could say within a 3% margin of error, these numbers are absolute. But they all kind of got in the ballpark, and they actually match up with what our data shows in terms of the actual tonnage and the people that are served. So what we essentially found is that most people, and when I say most, I'm talking more than half, most of the time, on a typical week, they're generating about the amount of trash that fits in that 35-gallon container. So when Tom talks about the balance, that's one of the things we looked at is this is a good fit for most people most of the time. So That's one of the big reasons that the hybrid made a lot of sense. And then you can scale up as you need to with the bags. Now, we understand there's going to be people that, you know, have a reason that they absolutely can't afford this. This is going to be a huge hardship. We're working with our social services departments on a distribution plan so that, you know, if you can means qualify for certain other programs, you may be eligible for a certain amount of free bags. So we set some of those bags aside for just that purpose. Housing authority properties, not impacted, they're on dumpsters. But if you take that package right there, that bag and that cart, that's the equivalent of a 65-gallon container. On average, that's going to cost any household in this town about $12 a month across the span of a year to dispose of that. So that was one of the reasons when we kind of went back to the beginning when Tom was talking about looking at the different options, when we decided to move forward with looking further to pay-as-you-throw, to look at, say, a 65-gallon cart as the starting point. One, it would cost more than that to sustain. On average, we would have to charge a fee to households, and that's every household. So that's a much, much more affordable option. It's basically half of that 65-gallon container under the levy. Now, if we also did go with that 65-gallon cart, everything that we have seen in terms of data tells us in every other town that has done it, people will fill the cart. So if you have a 65-gallon cart, right now on average, our households are generating 35 gallons across that's averaged out. And some are high, some are low. But if we move to a 65, there is a high likelihood that we would actually see our tonnage increase because people have a tendency to not be encouraged to recycle and to fill the cart. So I've got some other figures up there as far as kind of what the general impact would look like for some different family sizes, different household sizes. But our survey data did ask questions about household size and then how many bags you use. And it is definitely clear from what we have seen, and again, not a statistically valid survey, but best data we have shows that most people don't have a disproportionate impact from this kind of program. Now, a true pay-as-you-throw without the hybrid, everybody gets impacted. This way, if you're on that 35-gallon or less, if you're a two-person household, you're probably just fine. Get the next slide, please. We do know there's going to be some unanticipated impacts from this. We try to be as proactive as we can. We don't see any real data from any other towns that have done this, that illegal dumping becomes any more of a problem in that community than it was before pay-as-you-throw. If anything, there are some towns that have actually given anecdotal statements that say pay-as-you-throw programs that let people get rid of excess garbage for a reasonable cost may actually reduce that. But again, we haven't seen great data one way or another to say what the impact is on illegal dumping, other than say, I haven't seen anything that says it makes a big increase. But we have talked with our public safety folks. We're expecting and we're planning for something like that to happen. But again, the data just doesn't support that that's something that runs wild in communities that go with pay-as-you-throw. The next one actually is something that happens. Unauthorized use of town and school dumpsters and private dumpsters. So, you know, we're reaching out to the private companies and letting them know this is coming. Lock your dumpster. We have already started locking and patrolling all of our dumpsters. And even before this, we have a lot of people using our dumpsters. What's interesting is since we have started locking them, our tonnage has gone down. What we suspect is actually water weight in a lot of cases because we just weren't covering them, putting the lids on. So the locks actually help you kind of remember to cover this, so you don't pick up that water weight, which I have to pay for every time it goes to the landfill or to the tipping facility. Increase in private haulers and the need for hauler regulations. A lot of you are probably seeing some landscape companies and things like that saying, hey, we'll come pick up your bags of trash. Well, one, I tell them good luck. Good luck trying to dispose of that because you cannot access the incinerators in this town unless you're a commercial residential hauler. But we are going to be looking at private hauler regulations to ensure that we don't have people picking up bags out of people's yards for $2.50 and then throwing them in the woods, or burning them in their landfill, or trying to dispose of them with landscape waste. So we will look at some regulations around private haulers. Increase in recycling contamination. Again, I haven't seen any data to actually support this. We have polled a number of towns around the state that have transitioned and asked them, where were you before and where are you now? I have not found one that didn't see more than just a first tier jump in the first couple of months. They saw a little bit of an increase, but generally it worked itself out and people went back. That really is on us to educate and to make sure we're getting good information out there. And it also speaks to something Noel brought up, that we're going to have to increase our recycling programs. We're going to have more recycling opportunities. The Recycling Commission for decades has done a phenomenal job of really building, I would say, a grassroots recycling effort. And they've done it with volunteer effort. It's gotten too big and it's gotten too operationally complex for them to continue that, almost even at the rate they're doing it now. We're having trouble finding volunteers. It's more operationally complex than it used to be. And we need to do those things more. We're not going to be able to do that using volunteers. We're going to have some staff and some technical support to do those things to move them forward. Wildlife, legitimate concern. To throw a bag out and it sits out there overnight. We got some critters. So I would expect that to be an issue. What we're encouraging people to do, and we're talking with the health department on this now, is use your existing containers, your leftover containers after this is done, to put your bags in. Don't put your stuff out overnight if it's getting eaten overnight. Put it out in the morning if you can. That's actually in our regulations now. So it's interesting when people say, what am I going to do if something eats my stuff overnight? Well, don't put that. Put it out in the morning. Get the next slide. So the bag fee. So as Noel mentioned, $275 for one of those. They're going to be in rolls of 5, and they're going to be typically retailers are very interested in carrying these things. You'll see them at gas stations. You'll see them drug stores, hardware stores, all the local groceries, the markets. Right now, we're putting a list together to give to the vendor to say, go ahead and get your letters queued up and send these things out. Usually they get on pretty quick, so we'll be publishing lists of that. I would not worry about a situation where you can't find one in Westford. We will not be selling them outside of Westford. We want to make sure that when people buy them, they buy them in Westford, so that they go into our stores and visit our merchants. So that top part, that $1.90 on average, that's a 35-gallon bag. That's that bag right there on average. Holds, depending on the estimate you use, let's see, it's either 25 or 22 pounds. That is just our cost to dispose of that bag of garbage. Just the cost. That 105 divided by those tons, $1 is what it costs to incinerate that bag. We take that to the incinerator in a truck filled with 1,000 of those things, not in bags, just in raw tonnage, $1 for 22 pounds. So it adds up. And that's our actual cost to do this collection program. We pay our vendor 25 cents. We've negotiated that rate. In other communities, they're anywhere from $1 to $2 for that. But we were able to get them to work with us since we did a hybrid program and keep that cost much lower. So we've got, obviously a bag cost. We've got a little bit of funds. I would call really that program cost. That's the administrative overhead that you're government. And what that is actually money set aside from each bag that goes into expanding recycling programs and managing these things. A good piece of that 50 cents right there that we're calling program management, a portion of that is this operations analyst that we're talking about, that will spend a good portion of their time implementing this program, making sure it runs not just as good as what we have now, because I think we could do a lot better, but making it a good top-tier program. And in addition to that, this person's going to be doing some other things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that on this next slide. So, I've seen a lot of Facebook comments and a lot of people talking about this operations analyst. And I'm just going to kind of give you the high points because I want to answer any questions that anybody has when we get to the questions piece. But what we're anticipating is about half the time of this person in year one is going to be spent dealing with implementation of this program and expansion of all the other stuff that we need to do parallel to it, like recycling, like better enforcement of our existing contract, which admittedly, we don't do as well as we could. We leave money on the table on that every single month. Anybody that's ever worked in the corporate world, anybody that has worked in other governments around the country, around the state, is familiar with some of these different positions: budget analyst, operations analyst, FP&A analyst. This is a very common position, basically dedicated to finding savings and finding ways to do operational analysis and making them better and more efficient. We don't have that capacity in our organization. Our finance staff, we have a finance director. When the override was unsuccessful, we lost his part-time financial analyst. We had a sustainability coordinator that had a couple of job duties that were associated with running the trash program. We lost that position. So nobody is doing the analysis that we need to do. And plus, like Tom talked about, we've got this budget task force. It's a great report, had all these fantastic ideas. We don't have the staff to figure out how to implement half that stuff. So we need to be able to take deeper dives into the numbers and figure out how to really save some money. So over the last couple of years, since Kristen reorganized the town manager's office to create the 2 assistant town managers, with, again, that was a budget neutral decision, did not add a position, and simply created a different schedule of duties for each one of us. One of the things that I was tasked with was really looking at exactly this. How do we start lining up our operations with the strategic plan that we developed and start really figuring out what are our core activities and what are the things that we need to be focusing on. And along the way, where are some savings that we can get? We've been very successful since we started this, and just since July 1 of 24, we're about $4.8 million to the good in grants that we never had before, federal earmarks that we never pursued before, and I think probably more important are some of the energy stuff that we've done. I mean, we managed to do almost $4 million worth of work with about $300,000 out of pocket. That's dedicated capacity. Now the problem is, and I hear a lot of people say, well, we're doing all that now, why do we need somebody new to do it? Well, one, I'm tired, but two, we got the low-hanging fruit. We've gotten the easy things. We've gotten the LED lighting retrofits. We've gotten the weatherization stuff. We've gotten some easy grants. We have to dig much, much deeper into operations, and we've got to leverage new tools that weren't available a couple of years ago. AI has got huge opportunities for us, and that is something that we really need to be using our office focused on really the strategic planning side and the operation side to do. So, you know, I would sit down with anybody and walk them through every penny of that $4.8 million and show them what we have done in a span of about 18 months. I don't know that we're going to do that good moving forward because, again, a lot of low-hanging fruit. So we left a lot of grants on the table. I mean, we've applied for a handful of what's available out there. We need to be able to go after more of these things. So this position would help us do that. This position would not manage anything. It's not a manager. It would report to me, and I would report to her, and it would be accountable to us, who would then be accountable to the tri-board, to the finance committee, the school committee, and the select board to justify what this position is bringing to the town. I've said it before, I'd say it again. If this position is not successful, I will be the first one to recommend it goes away. I need it to produce. We have a lot of work to do, and we need a lot of help giving the foundation for some level of fiscal sustainability that we don't have right now. So, Kristen, if you jump to the next one. So the kind of the 3 key things that this person's going to be doing, and again, it's going to report to our office, but I kind of look at it as a kind of, when there's time, they're going to be doing some consulting to the other departments. If other departments have ideas and cool things they want to try out, like they just don't have the analytical ability. We've got great departments that are really good at doing what they do. They're not necessarily skilled or staffed at doing things like analysis, doing things like running spreadsheets and doing high-level financial analysis. They just don't have those skills. They're good at their programs. They need support to be able to do some of those things, and that's what I would like this position to do. Just some examples. of kind of on the solid waste side, contract enforcement. We're sitting at like $130,000 in 2 years of penalties and corrections due to audits on recycling invoices. We could probably do not necessarily that good, but we could sustain really good contract enforcement of our existing contract. If I had the ability, using a person and using some technology tools out there, to really get into that performance management of that contract, we could get better service and we could save money. Energy is a huge one. We've got still a lot of work to do on our buildings to make them more efficient, but that's one of our largest cost centers that we have very little control. Every time we turn around, another fee has been tacked onto our national grid bill, just like you guys. We've got the ability in some cases, through municipal electrical contracting, through some solar stuff, to do some hedging, but not enough. We've got a lot of work to do with that, so we really need somebody who can do a lot of those kind of background analytics so that us up on kind of that higher level can make some decisions, make some recommendations to the board, really to take those things to the next level. General cost containment and looking at things like our fee structure for different things that are not core services. One of the things that came out of the strategic plan was this concept that we should be focusing and prioritizing on our core services. And those are the things that we really need to figure out. How do we make the levy sustain those things in a long-term way, be able to scale them up appropriately for the size of the town we are, and then look at the other things that are some of those nice to haves and extra programs, and start figuring out, all right, how do we better align the fees around recreation type things, so that we can really tie those things and sustain them all. But at core, it's preserving those core services. Some other little miscellaneous things kind of tucked in there that we've been able to do, but again, I'll share the numbers on any of this stuff that we've done and answer any questions. Kristen, if you'll jump to the next one. So I know there's been quite a lot of Facebook chatter and everything on what can we do to stop this thing. If you guys want to stop it, stop it. Go to town meeting, get 90% of the people to stand up and just tear this thing down, strip the funding out, get rid of the position. We're right back to where we were in November 24 when we brought options to the board and basically said, this is consuming an ever-growing portion of our budget, and it is growing at a rate almost double that of our general fund revenues. It has to move away from that fee structure. What that means is essentially, we're going to have to go to a different system for collecting our trash. It may end up being a 65-gallon container, and we charge every household a fee. Now, again, 65 gallons, that's going to go up because our tonnage will increase. Plus, that annual fee for something like that, we won't have any option about not increasing that fee every single year to match the cost of the increase. So there are things that can be done that are not pay as you throw. I don't think there's any that meet all of the other goals that have been given to us in terms of waste reduction, cost containment, equity, and improving service. So there's other options. They're not quite as good at this for a town like Westford. We could reduce services elsewhere. It's going to be a one-time thing. If this strips out of the budget, we've got $125,000 net budget gap to plug. That's coming from somewhere, and it's going to go up every single year to the tune of about 6% a year. That's been our average annual cost growth on our trash and recycling program. So we can cut something else. It's going to be more the next year and more the next year and more the next year. Other option, we can just stop doing it. We can stop doing it, figure out something else to do with that money, and everybody can contract with a private haul. I've heard a lot of folks express desire for that. Get a cost estimate and come back and say, this is not a good deal. This is a very affordable, hybrid way to approach a pay-as-you-throw program. Every single town around us that runs a transfer station, because I hear that all the time, why can't we just get a transfer station? You know how much it costs to use a transfer station? You'll pay double, triple this amount to access the transfer station. All those numbers are up on our pay-as-you-throw website, And you could find all that information out there. We have looked at every possible option and really feel that we're bringing something that is the best balance of a program. I know it's not what Westford has had for many, many years, but we're in the reality of the industry the way it is right now. So I would encourage you to go to our pay-as-you-throw page and look at the information that we have there. There's a huge, huge amount of information. Every time we get questions, we post them up here and we put the answers to those questions. I have invited everybody I can think of, come in and ask me questions. Let me talk you through this and explain this to you. I'm happy to do that with anybody else, but Kristen's gonna
Well,
walk through.
my internet is broken, so I am not going to be able to walk through on this. I think, just to summarize, because we want to get to people's questions, we know we've been talking for 45 minutes. I want to make sure that we're opening up for people's questions. There's a huge amount of information on the Pay As You Throw webpage. There's what we have now. There's videos of the select board meetings of when they talked about this since 2021. We have a huge amount of frequently asked questions that we've been developing over the course of the past 6 months. So please visit that site. If you're not finding what you need or what you'd like to know about, myself, Mike, any of the select board members are more than willing to talk to you about this at any point in time. We are happy to talk to residents about any topic, to be honest, but this is one that is timely. So with that, we would like to get to some questions. I'm going to be managing it both on the Zoom and in person, so I'm likely going to go one in the room, one on Zoom, so please be patient with us while we do that. Anything additional that you want to say?
You made it through the initial slides, so let's hear your questions.
All right, so if you do have a question in the room, if you are able to come to a microphone, that would be great. If you don't feel that you're able to get up from your seat, we can walk a microphone to you. I'm going to start with a Zoom question, and then if someone's in the room, feel free to filter up to the microphones. So this question, and Mike, I think this is geared to you. Why do you think raising the cost to Westford residents 2.7% if you throw out 1 barrel per week and 6.7% if you throw out 2 barrels of trash a week is fair?
I don't know that I understand that question because I'm not sure it's accurate. But what I will say is if you throw out 1 barrel a week, you're not paying anything. So there is no cost increase for 1 barrel a week. I don't quite understand the percentage. So Steve Bates, if you'd like to correct, like maybe repost exactly what you're looking for, I'm happy to try to answer it, but I don't quite understand the question.
This gentleman here, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So this spike, seems to the mic works.
Yes.
This might be a dumb question, but there are some houses, including mine, that you don't see from the street, but the town must know we're here because they manage to send us tax bills, every now and then. So I'm assuming that somebody will actually deliver one of these blue bins to each house, and you know where the houses are, and if you can't see them from the street, that's okay?
Yes, so we've done a lot of GIS analysis with the tax assessor and our GIS department. So we have a listing of every single residential household that qualifies. So if you have a single family unit up to 3 units, you would be getting this trash bin delivered to your home, probably likely the end of June. And Mike, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, we're working on finalizing that list because we've got to provide a list to the vendor and they'll, map everything out and figure out who gets a card. We're going to publish that and we're going to ask people, double check. There's been a lot of questions and confusion around whether your ADU, your permanent ADU gets a card. Well, yeah, it does if it's on our list and it has an address. I would rather figure out on the front end everybody that needs them that take calls afterwards and have to come up with a card to deliver. So we'll post more information. You'll see social feeds on that when we get that list up, and you just go check, make sure your address is on there. You're good. It'll get delivered. You don't have to do anything.
Great.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I'll just say for another question.
Okay. Yeah,
Great, so
what's
we're
going
doing
on? Yep.
So how much does the cost of new trash barrels cost about 8,000 households, and how much to distribute to each house?
So the carts themselves, if we buy our initial order, I want to say the carts themselves run about $48 with assembly and delivery. The total contract that we would be looking at would be around $366,000, but there's a Mass DEP grant that covers about 75% of that. So our total cost to the town is going to be between $100,000 and $128,000 to do the full CART rollout, and I think that's based on, if I remember right, 8,200 carts. So we're looking to get a little bit extra so we have some in inventory.
Other question from the audience before we go back to this gentleman?
Well, Erica's getting up to the mic. I think this is simple. So another person said, has an independent party looked at the survey? It seems biased. So Mike addressed that in the conversation. We did not have the funds to have this go out to be a statistically valid survey. We did the best we could to get that information, and there were actually 2 surveys developed over the course of a 2-year period. So go ahead, Erica.
I attended the League of Women Voters informational town meeting preview. And when the citizen petition to rescind this vote was put forward, it was presented as a fairness thing. And what I heard earlier from you, Mike, was that there is a fairness thing on the other side that I'm hoping you could just explain a little bit more, that there are taxpayers, businesses, and multifamily units, renters, apartment dwellers, for instance. Is that true, that there are many people in town already who have to pay for something they're not getting the benefit of? Is that true?
I won't speak to the citizen petition. I think that's something for town meeting citizens to debate.
Hey, Mike, could you please speak up or into the mic?
How about that? Better? No, really? Is it better?
Well,
Up?
is the mic on?
Erica, I will say that there's another kind of fairness issue, which is if you have a family that's generating very little trash, and you've got a family that's generating a lot of trash, right now, everyone is sort of inside the tax bill paying the same thing. I would argue that there's a way of viewing this, that this is more fair, and that everybody gets access to this amount for included, and those that are generating extra are paying the burden instead of people generating extra, spreading the burden across everybody.
I would say echo that exactly, and before this thing stopped working. Yes, you have businesses and you have multifamily properties that pay the same level of tax and do not have access to the service. So I would argue beginning to introduce a fee for the user is a equity issue as well. And that was a goal given to us by the select board program side.
Okay.
So this may be for Tom. Why would leaders, the select board, not follow what the town votes for, even if they have the power to impose fees?
I think I would say that under statute, the select board has a certain set of responsibilities. And we have a certain set of sort of tools that we can use to meet those responsibilities. So I will say that we take responsibility very seriously to make sure that we're delivering the best mix of services for the residents based on all the input that we pull from all the different places that it comes from. So facing the challenge of trying to continue to deliver at least level services in an environment where costs are going up faster than Prop 2.5, we had to look at the tools that we had available to us. And like I said at the top, the trash cost was going up twice as fast as our budget was going up. We had to take some action there, and basically the toolkit that we have that we can use to act on that problem to continue to provide services to other people that people really cherish is to implement this fee. And so we felt like that was, acting in our elected duty and sort of exercising our responsibility to stem the increased diversion of funds to trash at the expense of education and first responders.
So gentlemen here, yes.
Yes, I have a question about the sustainability of this effort that you've discussed. In your presentation, it appears that trash costs would continue to go up at the rapid rate in comparison to other costs, such that I think if there's nothing done to curb those increases in trash, that eventually, although things balance out in the near term, as you discussed in your presentation, eventually you're going to see those costs go up to the point where you start to see you're going to have to increase the cost of these bags, and there will also be where we have a position now where the budget is overwhelmed with the current total collection that we do now. I'm concerned that you would see an increase in the budget just to support the no-charge 35-gallon containers. So I guess me thinking through that, what are your thoughts on how sustainable this effort really is?
So I think Mike explained it well, and Mike can fill in if I get part of this wrong, but we do expect it to go up. And so what we're thinking is that this tote, 35-gallon tote that would be included with everyone under the levy, we think, based on the projections we have, that we can try to keep just the collection and tipping fee related to that within the sort of 3% plus levy increase. If we find that the costs go up faster, then we're going to have to make the same balancing act choices we do every year when we do the budget. And I think you raise a point, is it possible that the cost per bag for the overflow could go up over time? I think it probably could, because if our tipping fees go up because it's more expensive to burn trash than it used to be, then whatever the cost associated with that bag, Mike gave the numbers of what it is today. In the future, that could go up, and it's possible that we would then have to reprice. But I think that what this does, it sort of separates the different elements out and gives us a much better shot of staying within the levy increase rate, if that helps.
So our next question online, and I believe, Mike, you may have the answer to this. What percentage of households receive trash service versus condos and apartments that don't receive trash service?
Well, I can tell you, we've got right now 8,019 households on our list that receive trash. I think recycling is 8,062, Christina? I think you just filled this out. We have a few more. And our total households in Westford, Kristen,
I think it's just over 10,000.
just over 10,000. But again, you've got multifamily, like big apartment complexes in that mix. There are probably another, and backing up that 8,000 does include all of our housing authority properties. But yeah, so you're, I don't know, somebody do that math for me, but we say 10,000 versus 8,000 is about 80%.
80% or so. Is there anyone in the audience in the room who hasn't asked a question before I go to this gentleman again? Yes, Heather.
One of the things I don't particularly like about this program is it feels like it's generating a lot of waste in our existing barrels. And I feel like you just told us that on average everybody only has, will work with the 35 gallons. So, and then you said, well, if people have 65 gallon toters, they'll fill them because they'll have the space. But right now we're not doing that.
Oh, no. So on average, we've got 8,000 plus households. We've got a tonnage amount that equals roughly, you divide everything out, that's the average that people dispose. You have households that are disposing, easily putting out 3 and 4 barrels right now, even over our current limits. Well, no, up to 3 barrels, so the 3 35-gallon barrels with the 96 total. I guess I'm not quite.
Yeah, Heather, can I ask you a clarifying question? So are you saying that you're concerned the system will lead to extra waste collection and will then have to be tipped? Or are you saying that the actual, the trash containers that people have now won't have a purpose anymore?
Well, the containers we have don't have a purpose. And so I feel like it's very wasteful. And then we're spending $400,000 of taxpayer money, whether it be a grant or not, to buy these. But when you were talking, you were saying on average it's 35 gallons, which suit most people. So it just seems like a lot of waste and a lot of expense with a couple outliers, because like you said, some people use less than probably an average. And there's a handful that drives that up that uses more. So it just seems very wasteful to capture that small little part that's in excess.
I think if everyone, yeah, so Heather, I think I understand your question. So when we look at other peer communities that have taken the same approach and adopted the same approach, apples for apples, our peers that have this generate 30% less trash overall than people who don't. So it's, we're lucky that we have the data, right? We don't have to speculate. We know that towns on average that adopt this are generating less waste.
I guess that leads to something that I wasn't gonna talk about necessarily right now, but I see that we've analyzed this stuff over years, but with the new trash vendor, that might be a big part of why that discrepancy exists with the 30% between us and other towns, because we've lost 1,000, 15% in tonnage just from switching vendors.
Right, so absolutely. Heather's point is that we have seen a reduction just from new vendor. You're absolutely right. What I was talking about is comparing the market basket of other towns, not us, that either have pay-as-you-throw or don't have pay-as-you-throw. So
We do get closer with this new vendor though.
We do get close.
we're better than we used to be, but we still will expect, like all the other towns that have made this conversion, to see that kind of improvement. That's what the data would say.
So the next question online is actually a very unique question. Our neighborhood has a community trash can that is at the end of our road at a trailhead. There's no house in that area. People use it quite a bit when hiking, walking dogs, etc. It helps keep the wooded area clear of litter. Would we be able to have a trash bin located there for this program? What I would say to Becky in this is please contact our office. We'd like to learn more about this. You're also welcome to put a pay-as-you-throw trash bag in that area in a container that you already have and put that out on a daily basis. I don't know if anybody else has any other answers for that, but I think call our office. It seems like a really specific question.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, Chris Barrett, one of the select board members. Just wanted to follow up on the question about the wastefulness of going to new carts. I think what you brought up, and I think it's germane to that question, is a lot of the haulers are expecting increases in automation. And reuse of carts that don't support that type of automation is going to harm our ability to get the best value contract going forward. So one of the benefits that we get of replacing all of our carts is that, as you can see with this one, they're fully compliant with the automated systems that the haulers are expecting towns to be able to support going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So this may get us ahead of an issue that's coming anyway, because eventually we'll rebid our trash contract, and people will insist all the bidders will only bid if we have carts like this. Yep, Christina?
Can I just add to that? So I've been involved in probably the last 3 rounds of trash and recycling contracts, and it's already an issue. Before we had Acme, and they were fine picking up manual collection, even getting out of the truck and lifting your barrel or your bag or whatever. But there were a lot of companies that didn't want bid on our contracts because we had that stipulation. So we're already seeing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Christina.
This gentleman here in the navy blue, did you have a question?
Just a little bit concerned about some of the numbers you guys were mentioning, mainly the 15% reduction in tonnage. I'm concerned that doesn't have to do with towns that swapped over from our current system to pay-as-you-throw, rather just comparing the two populations. I think if you look for the numbers between 2023 and 2024 that Massachusetts published, it's not quite 15%. I think it's actually closer to 5% reduction when you're comparing those same towns from the previous year in 2023 to the new year in 2024 when they swapped over. So is that at all concerning? Is that, have you guys looked into that issue?
Well, I'll just emphasize there are 2 things going on, so you're correct to point that out. We would not say that the 15% reduction based on the carrier change is due to any of this. It's actually, we obviously haven't implemented this yet. So that is because the new carrier executed more discipline in what they were picking up. They were better at enforcing the standards that we have, et cetera. So we got that benefit, and that's great. But I guess to your point, I think we still would expect further benefit from seeing what other communities have seen when they've gone from sort of the style of trash we have now to pay-as-you-throw. Now, you had some different data, and it's entirely possible that depending on what data you sampled or where you pulled it from, it might be a different number. So, I know the data that we looked at back when we did the survey, but I'd be very interested in seeing the data that you have too. But I think we do expect a gain.
Yeah, this is just the stuff Massachusetts published based on their town-by-town or town-by-town survey. If you're looking at it in 2024, I don't anticipate that would have been available then. So
I can speak to this, and I think Christina probably knows this data better than anybody, but I have pulled every different way of looking at pay-as-you-throw communities versus non-pay-as-you-throw communities, and without question, the average across pay-as-you-throw communities is significantly lower than non. You're talking 0.63 a ton, or 63 tons per household per year, so I'd be very interested, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk after this.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for the point, though. And I think it raises a point that there's not an exactitude, because depending on what your data we're looking for, what we're comparing, I think the vast body of evidence is that communities that do adopt pay-as-you-throw do see a meaningful decline, and then a lower cost at the tipping.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the next question is, can I put my bags in current waste containers when I have more than the provided container will hold? So yes, you can put your pay-as-you-throw bags in your current containers. I would suggest you put spray paint or tape on that says trash or solid waste. And you can also use your existing containers if you have more recycling. We have recycling stickers at the town hall that you can get, or you can again spray paint or use your own tape to do that.
Don't the lids need to be open?
Lids should be open so the hauler can see that there are pay-as-you-throw bags in there. Yes. Emily? Yes.
I have a couple,
Do we get the
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a couple points, and then I'll ask my question first. Do you think you'll be able to get somebody with the qualifications that are needed for numbers analysis across the programs that you're hoping to be analyzed for $80,000?
Yes, short answer, I mean, doing some kind of market basket surveys and looking across other public sector entities, this is, we believe, a competitive salary.
My points are for town meeting on Saturday. I would suggest, because I'm sitting pretty close here, that you get rid of the margins on these slides and make the font bigger, especially the ones that are really crowded.
So we're not even going to show this on Saturday. We have a video, and it's interactive, and there's really no slides, so you don't have to worry about that.
And I
But good
understand-
general point that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, I understand that there's a 6-minute limit on your presentation. I'm thinking, okay, this took 48 minutes. So anyway, I'm just a little concerned about that. And also, it's kind of flickery and it's not really bright. So I
Thank
don't
you.
know.
So we're going to post these slides on our website tomorrow for people to see. We will be showing a video at town meeting that will be less than 6 minutes, and we will be available for questions at that point in time as well. So thank you for those comments, Emily, really helpful. I'm going to do one more question, and then, sir, I will get to you. So thank you for your patience. Is there any consideration given to home daycare businesses where larger amounts of trash are generated, such as additional 35-gallon trash cans? I think we need to address that offline, so if you could please call the town manager's office, we're happy to help you with that question. Sir,
So up till now, if we have a small amount of construction waste, like there's a little bit of wood left over, it's been possible to just put it in the garbage pail and put it out, cutting it to size and so on. Would we just put it in one of these bags then? If we had like wood from leftover construction?
So if certain types of construction debris are banned from solid waste, from residential solid waste, but things like, say you have some 2x4s, kind of your example, if you can cut them up, you can fit them in that cart. As long as that lid closes, you can put anything that's allowed in the waste stream. So burnable trash, like wood, you can absolutely put in there. Drywall, no. Paint, no.
Now, just for one other comment about needing to see the bag from outside, is we sort of have to put covers where I am, because otherwise raccoons will get in there. So we would have to put out a garbage pail with a cover on it. These bags are pretty obvious. If you take off the cover, it'd be pretty obvious there's one of those bags inside of it. But I think if we left it uncovered, it would get eaten.
If it's, are you leaving it out, kind of covering it up because the raccoons get it into at night?
Yeah, people come to get the garbage before I wake up in the morning. So.
Okay.
But the car would get in the morning.
Well, it's certainly something we can talk with the hauler about and see if there's an opportunity. I think our biggest thing is making sure that we have a good enforceable system. So,
Or ammonia road, in the case you get those off, just take a bottle of ammonia and
yeah,
put it on.
We'll look at that a little bit further and talk with the hauler, but right now our guidance is they need to be able to see that back.
I mean, right now, they just, take a little off, and they dump it, I guess, but,
We'll get some more information for the
I
residents.
think we understand the question. If you're in a place where the trash pickup is early and you need to have it covered to prevent animals, how do we have a labeling system or some other way so that your trash doesn't get got by raccoons? Understood.
I think this question is for Tom. Why do we say pay as you throw is fair, but there is no extra charges for more children? Use more of the library, use more of the police, longer roads to plow. Shouldn't we pay to use that? Seems like you would want to move to a pay as you throw to get services. What is next? So maybe that's just a statement. Tom, if you wanted to answer it, feel free as well.
Well, there's certainly no plan to charge selectively based on use of first responding services or based on use with education. We consider that sort of a public good that's our duty and privilege to provide. So, I think trash is a little bit different category than talking about all the other really important services that get provided. So there's no plans to implement any additional fees for use for these critical life-saving functions and the education functions that we provide in the town.
Anyone else in the room?
Oh, yeah. Got a few. Hi, Mike, we spoke earlier today.
Sure. I'm sorry, I want to get you a mic that works. Does this one work better?
I can talk loud. It's all good.
Okay,
It's also for people to hear online.
just for the people.
All
who
right,
know.
I won't
Yeah.
talk then, thank you. I've got a few questions. If you need to have me pause and take others, please do that.
I do have 17 others online, so if
That's
you
great.
were able to pause,
Okay.
that would be great. Thank you.
I'll ask a number of them, you can answer them as you
Yeah.
wish. How are town offices and schools reducing by the 30% that we need to be reducing? Because I think that's probably the biggest trash producer in town, right? So if we're talking about the Board of Selectmen needing to be active in incentivizing the population to reduce that much trash, I think we should be just as active in owning that townwide, right?
Yeah, so I totally accept that point as excellent. Mike, I don't know if you know offhand what percentage of trash that gets hauled and tipped comes from town and school buildings versus municipal.
I've actually got it, and I want to say we adjust for around 320 tons between school and town facilities. They're actually a relatively small generator.
Yeah, which, in the context of all of the trash, how much is that?
Christina, what are we, 6,200 tons?
Yeah.
So
So
you're talking
5%-ish, okay. But on that 5%, which is really important, Mike, what are some strategies that the town is thinking about to reduce, help further reduce from, I think what's a relatively low number now, but reduce it further?
So we do actively recycle, certainly all of our town facilities do, and we work with the schools. They have a very active recycling program. We are looking at, one of the things we're concerned about on the school side, because I think Mass DEP is going to push down food waste bans that will be effective on our schools as commercial generators. So we'll be working with them on some pilot efforts to try to figure out how do we do that really before we're forced to do it and start doing some voluntary programs. So we're actively trying to work with our departments to do waste reduction. We're working with the Recycling Commission right now to try to pair some of the town recycling needs, like electronics, with the events that the Recycling Commission puts together, hopefully in a way that can benefit, both our departments and our operating budgets, but also the taxpayers by being able to spread out those events and take advantage of some economies of scale.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
In purchasing, perhaps it be thought about what we're purchasing in terms of food or whatever products the schools need, because I think they're probably a big producer of some of the trash here. I know when I look at packaging at the stores, I think, wow, that's a lot of trash to throw away. No, that's just a little bit of trash to throw away. So maybe the town think that way too.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thanks.
Okay. I do have a few others. Who's paying for the housing authority dumpsters?
Right now, those are covered by the levy.
So we're paying for it.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just pointing that out. How are we going to incentivize the housing authorities to reduce their trash by 30%?
So I don't have an answer right now. We did have a policy discussion about should the town pay as part of the levy for the housing. We decided that we didn't want to do that. So that was an intentional choice that we made. The alternative would be to say, no, the residents need to basically pay more rent to cover that cost, and we felt like part of our housing mission was appropriately served by including that. That's a policy decision that can come back at any time. In terms of a strategy with the housing authority to also reduce waste, I don't have details on that, but I think I would ask our housing colleagues, our colleagues in the Housing Commission to basically answer that question for us, because they should have a plan as well.
Do you think we could get that before town meeting?
Probably not, if we're going to do a good job, but I think it's a great suggestion that we'll follow up.
Yeah, but you get the point. If we're going to ask all of our residents to really squeeze and pull in the buckle, that we should be doing that townwide,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Okay, especially where we're,
I'm going to go to a web question.
yeah, sure, I'll wait here for a few others.
So you stated that the town will make $300,000 selling the pay-as-you-throw bags, and then said the average family will need them, and most people need them, so it won't cost more. Those statements are mutually exclusive. Which one is it?
So I guess, Mike, how does the calculation, what assumptions are you making about who's using bags when and how that leads to the $300,000?
So we've actually got all of this in one of the memos that's posted on the pay-as-you-throw website. So we actually we used the survey results to some degree, as well as doing some random samples that the Recycling Commission helped us do to try to get an idea about what actually went out in different households, how many were exceeding that 35. Using the survey data, we extrapolated basically the number of households on average that would need a bag based on their own response, use that, ratcheted it down for the revenue projection, and ratcheted it up for the expenditure projection to be appropriately conservative. So we're actually building our budget. Our revenue budget is only built around 100,000 bags a year. Our expenditure budget is built around 160,000, so that we can adjust for timing and be very careful and conservative with the way that we are budgeting.
So you basically built a model based on observed behavior already.
Correct.
For people that are self-reporting, creating less than 35, they're not buying any bags in your model. People who are reporting is generating more might be buying bags at some frequency.
Correct, and that was kind of cross-checked against what the Recycling Commission did with doing actual windshield surveys, going out, looking at people's, not looking in their trash, but observing how many barrels were out, and giving us those counts through neighborhoods all across town.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Just one little add-on to that. So if you do the math, 8,000 households, that $300,000 or the $275,000 in revenue, that's each household at buying an average of like 10 to 12 bags a year. It's not a lot of bags. You're going to need a few.
Yeah, I think I understand what Mike said, and the modeling makes complete sense to me. So, thanks.
Is there anyone else in the audience that had a question before we go back?
All right, you're up. Oh.
Bring it to you to save time.
Oh, no, okay, thank you.
Sorry. I guess I came in late, so I might have missed when you asked, or when you might have said, do we already have the toters purchased?
No.
No, okay. And then my other question is, how much do other towns charge for the bags?
It varies anywhere from around $2 a bag up to $5 a bag. There's actually a very good comparison on, I believe it's in one of the FAQs where we kind of walk through, so I'll show you all of our neighboring towns, what it costs you to dispose of the same amount versus what it costs you here. And with one exception, we are absolutely proposing the least expensive program.
I see. And then how are we incentivized to buy Westford bags and not, like what if people go buy
You don't have a
where it's
choice.
cheap? You don't have a choice. Oh, I see. So there's specific, like, do they say
Yes,
what?
they will be branded Westford.
I see.
Pickup.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Well, we're transitioning back. There's another question from William. I support the pay-as-you-throw concept, but we're facing practical issues. We live at the end of a shared 800-foot drive, and the cans usually go in our car. William, I would suggest that you contact the town manager's office. We want to talk about your specific situation and help you with a solution. So thank you for the question.
Great. Cost of increase in potential recycling contamination. Can someone tell me what we're receiving now for what we're defraying in terms of recycling? I don't know if we get paid or if it defrays. What's that risk? How much are we looking at risking if that does
In my view, it's a relatively low risk. So our recycling program essentially operates on what they call a blended value rate. So we pay a certain amount. Right now, it's $100 is our processing fee per ton. That nets against the value that we get, which changes month to month on all the different commodities. We have 7 different commodities classes in our list. And there's significantly more risk that actually market volatility will impact that than actual contamination. The contamination is one portion of that blended value rate. Ours is sitting right now, Christina, 8.8%, about 8%. It's up to the hauler. It's their choice if they want to audit that. It is a very costly and labor-intensive exercise for them to do that. We don't anticipate they would do that unless they looked at it and felt that our numbers were significantly higher. But we have the ability to request it. I really don't want to because we're getting a great contamination rate right now, and there's no indication they want to change that. So
Okay, so
low risk.
potentially some percentage of 8% is the maximum that we might be looking at risking if there were any wholesale contamination of recycling.
No, I think it would take a lot to get us to a 10% contamination rate, which is pretty normal.
I'm just trying to get the numbers. I'm just trying to
I think
understand.
you're talking about literally pennies per ton.
But can you give me those numbers factually?
I'd be happy to if I knew exactly which.
I'm trying to understand, because we have a recycling program
Okay.
that does defray our trash costs here, right? Our budget that we're paying for trash.
It sort of depends. So there were years historically where the rate that we would be paid for, say, cardboard or any of the things that we're recycling was pretty high, and there was a net generator. I think it's been a while since that's been a net generator.
It's happened 2 years. That was during COVID. In the last 10, we've actually seen any revenue generated that offset the cost of just the recycling collection. So we pay to recycle.
Yeah, it costs the town money.
It costs, right now, we're paying about $62 a ton.
So maybe I shouldn't say it publicly, but that means if folks just start throwing it in the recycling, it's not going to hurt us that much? That's what I'm asking.
But no, then our recycling will be rejected and we'll pay more money.
Okay, but that is a risk. That's what I'm looking at. It would be great to understand what the potential financial risk there would be. And then moving on, how are the new rental communities? Because we've got quite a few coming online that are really large. They're really going to start, maybe not quite outnumbering our residential homes yet, but quite a few out there. How are we going to incentivize them to reduce the amount of trash that they're creating? I would think it would be a private concern and it really wouldn't be our business, right? But if we're trying to incentivize 8,000 households, what about the remainder rental properties? And let me just ask my last question here.
Yep.
I heard starch-based bag. That doesn't mean it's not petroleum or that there isn't plastic in there. So it'd be great to get some facts about what this is made of. Any Googling I did said, yeah, there might be starch-based stuff in it, but there's still quite a bit of plastic in it too. So I just want to be accurate about what we're putting out there.
Sure.
And I also want to echo the concerns the gentleman expressed about rodents. I'm very concerned about what that's going to look like. I would like you to see, Tom, our recycle bins that have been chewed through. So it's a real issue. Putting trash out there, folks start throwing their bags out there. I just think Westford's not going to look good. So we need to think that one through. It would be nice if you could talk to the Board of Health and figure out, are we in line for starting to cost ourselves more in terms of rodent control? We don't want to get to that.
Okay, thanks. So echoing the suggestion, so we will follow up on that, just like you said. And I guess somewhere online, Mike, is there any kind of report about what happens when you burn one of these bags?
We can, if there's not, we can certainly put something.
Sounds like something we've heard twice tonight. So.
Yep, happy to post that on the FAQs.
Yeah, we buy this, personal thing. We buy these kind of bags, and I know that you can fully incinerate the ones that we use, but I don't know specifically.
Microphone.
Oh, okay.
So another question online, we have 2 assistant town managers, a finance director, and a town manager. They should be able to take the lead on these responsibilities, or they should be able to take on these responsibilities. How do you balance the fact that the town turned down the override and now you're creating more positions? We're creating one more position. Aren't the town officials supposed to be strategic? Sounds like more labor money. So Tom, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, so totally understand the question. So I'm sure many of us have had experiences where in order to find opportunities to save money, you have to put a lot of work into it. And so, Westford's not a business exactly, but in our business, we have to hire people to get the work done to figure out how to save money. Saving money just doesn't happen by itself. So in the careful work that's been done to create this position, we think we've identified new things that we can do that we can't do right now. I mean, right now, we've been pretty successful. I mean, it's a little bit of a curse of our own success with some of the grants that we found. The way that happens is Mike and Dan are working on these things, and then they have to drop everything and go back and do their day job. And they're going to do that. They'll continue to do that and put in that extra time. But for us to go to the next level and actually pursue some of the other savings that we've identified, we need people to do the work. It's just not going to happen by magic. So, I can say from my own experience that the town folks that have these responsibilities are working hard. They're putting a lot of hours now. So there's not a way to ask them to do 20% more and do 20% more work. So if we actually want more work to happen, to find and develop more opportunities, we need to apply more hours to it. I don't think we can expect that we're going to find some next level of opportunity for efficiency without putting any more resources into it. I just don't see how that would happen.
Next question is online, and this pertains to town meeting Article 22. So why would we need 90% of the people to stop it versus a simple majority? As we stated, the town meeting Article 22 is non-binding. However, if there were a very big majority of people who said no on that article, the select board has indicated that they would have a discussion in the future of what they may want to do. I won't go into that further detail, Tom, if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, I think the question maybe responding to Mike. I think Mike, when he was talking, said, if you don't like this, get 90%. So I think he was being a little bit dramatic or hyperbolic or something. So you're absolutely correct that things at town meeting of the kind you're talking about are a simple majority. And Kristen's absolutely correct. That kind of citizens petition would show up to us as a recommendation to the select board from the body of the meeting. We take those recommendations seriously, but it doesn't force an action. It's a recommendation to the select board. That kind of citizens petition that'll be in front of the Senate study.
Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. Oop.
In some of the other settings, there have been some other specific bits shared about the operations analysts that seem like they might be partial answers to questions that have been asked tonight. And one was, Mike, the frequency with which you were planning to share specific updates about that position, and broadly, what even within the first year or two you thought the savings might translate into some of the positions that are so wanted in the town that have been cut.
Yeah, well, I can speak. I can't speak if I turn the phone on. So I guess to the first piece, so we have committed to updating on a quarterly basis what this position will do, and we have agreed that the body that makes the most sense is the tri-board. They are kind of tasked with looking generally at efficiencies across both the town and the school side, so we're happy to provide that information, take feedback. We have said repeatedly, this is not just a town position. It does need to spend time assisting where possible with the schools, kind of that consultant role that I had talked about. So those updates will be provided, publicly available to the select board. I mean, I expect this position to be extremely accountable. There's obviously a lot of eyes on it. There's going to be a lot of eyes on our office for recommending it. So to the second piece, give me that one more time. Oh.
Some examples.
Well, I mean, I guess in terms of really the revenue stuff, I would be pointing first and foremost, I think, to better running of the pay-as-you-throw program and our current recycling programs. I would also say that probably one of the biggest single hits that we have opportunity for is going to be on the energy side. We've kind of done everything we can without being much more complex in our kind of background analysis to see where the opportunities are, where the payoffs are. But having somebody that actually can use AI models to help us build out better projections long term. We have an extremely complicated energy portfolio in terms of our different accounts, the way net metering credits work. We're about to have solar come online with Blanchard. All those things, if we manage them properly and we can identify and project out savings, we can bank on some of that savings to end up making further investments or paying for other things. But I do think, and we mentioned this in the memos and in other presentations, we could add a teacher, we could add a police officer, we could add a firefighter for this amount of money, but none of those are going to do anything to build the financial foundation that we really need to start restoring those positions in the long term. So I hope that answered your question. Is there more?
Just that I think we've heard in some of the other settings that it is thought to be realistic to think the position would, in early going, I don't remember if it was the first year or the second year, would pay for itself and begin to carve out that actual dollars, we'd be able to see how it would pay for other things.
I have no doubt this position will pay for itself. I think until we really get an idea of what we're going to be working towards, I'm hesitant to set a 3x of salary, but it will pay for itself or it won't exist.
Thanks.
This is more of a statement, but I want to make sure everyone hears it. This program will cost me nothing. Always been a big recycler, composter, cautious about purchases, use less than half a barrel a week. But one, the extra bins created are the opposite of this. So it's not environmentally sound. I already have spare barrels. Definitely don't need more. Two, all for educating people on reducing trash and not charging them. Recycling Commission does a fabulous job. Keep it up. Three, with AI's increased capabilities, the analyst seems like a waste. Fund teachers, police, or fire. I think Mike just addressed that. Four, town staff takes on too much. 3 budgets with or without an override. This whole trash thing, adding sidewalks, looking into non-citizen voting, looking into a rec center, focus on fewer things. I think we talked about that earlier, about focusing on core services. And 5, this is one of the only town services that people without kids really utilize. It's less than 2% of the budget. Look at special ed, look at health insurance, look at consultants that we are paying, marketing companies doing social media. There are other places that need to be examined. So thank you for your comments. And I just want to be clear that some of the other consultants that we're paying, that was a one-time ARPA funding. So the town of Westford specific tax dollars were not used for those services.
I'll just say that if people have detailed questions about individual line items and spending choices, a great place to look is the Finance Committee's excellent work analyzing each of these things in detail. So we don't have time to go into every single thought and choice that had lots of effort thinking and lots of smart people looking at it before we made the choice. But there's a great record of all that there in the Finance Committee. You can find that stuff online and take a look at the very smart Finance Committee questions, what the answers were, and why we felt like the choices we made in this budget were the right ones.
So I'm going to combine the next 2 questions because they're very similar. So why procure a new 33-gallon, and I want to correct that, that's a 35-gallon container. Residents could use their existing containers. Town could save money with this approach, or maybe use a sticker. And with the barrels and bags, will the barrels and bags be shipped to each household, or where do we pick these up? So we're asking residents to use the new totes because they are all uniform, and our hauler can collect them in a more uniform basis. You will receive the toter come to your house. You do not need to come pick that up. And I think we covered earlier, the bags will be available at retail operations, grocery stores, hardware stores, convenience stores throughout the town of Westford.
And just since it came up again, we talked about it earlier, but as Chris brought up earlier, in some future bidding with a hauler, the people who come to our house and collect the trash, we're going to have to go to a standardized tote because no one will bid on non-standard totes because the way this is going is just a driver in a truck, fully automated. So the option to have whatever bag or whatever method you have in the past, that's going to go away in the next bidding cycle or very soon. So we understand it seems wasteful to get another tote, but in order to be compliant with the way the future contracts are, to keep our costs low, we're going to have to take that step.
Yes.
Just a continuation with the totes. Initially, when we get the tote, it's free. However, when it's dropped and cracked and you need a new one, who is responsible for that? I've already replaced 2 barrels since June because they have been
dropped on the street, driven over the covers, and they have been destroyed. So I'm just wondering who was responsible.
Do you have an answer to that, Mike?
Yeah, under our contract, the hauler is responsible for anything they damage. And actually, the hauler has been excellent about replacing things that they damage with their carts. Moving forward, they will replace them with our carts if it's one of our carts that they damage. So you will not be responsible. Plus, the carts themselves come with a 10-year warranty. They're all individually identifiable. So we'll have a good life cycle out of them.
How fast will they replace it? Can you repeat the question, Mike? Just
How fast will they replace them? We'd be looking at a 10-year replacement cycle.
What I'm saying.
If it's damaged, within a week or
Yeah,
less.
they're obligated by contract to replace within a week. And typically, our experience is they're usually 3 or 4 days they're out there. And to be honest, they smash a non-standard cart, they're more than happy to replace it at their cost with an automated cart because it does make it so much easier. Well, if somebody steals your cart, one, police report helps, but they're all identifiable. They're all going to have RFID chips. We'll know exactly which one goes with each house. We're trying to, like I said, future-proof this and get ourselves prepared for where this program needs to go in the future.
So, well, Mike, if you want to pass the mic, I'll ask one of these questions. So, with the $13 million plus cost for the new library, did we consider this enormous cost to offset the increase in trash removal? This is a more nuanced question because in municipal finance, we have buckets of money. So the library cost is coming from a debt exclusion, which would be a separate increase on the tax levy, where trash and recycling comes from our general fund and is built into that. So if you do want to have more conversations about the cost of the library versus solid waste, please contact our office. We're happy to help you through that conversation.
I need to comment on that, Kristen, I'm sorry. I appreciate that answer, but that doesn't consider...
Oh, I just want to make sure people at home can hear. Yeah, let's...
Is it on?
Yeah.
I appreciate the answer, Kristen, and I understand it's a factual answer, but it doesn't really think about the taxpayer. The taxpayer's feeling the burn, right? And so I just want to say that I don't know how many times I've been listening to board meetings, and I haven't shown up to many lately. I really haven't in quite some time. But I keep hearing over and over again from folks that, oh gosh, the override wasn't passed, and oh, this is the side effect of not passing the override. Well, you know what? The voters voted. Enough. It wasn't passed, move on. But when somebody says something about the library, we're told, oh, stop talking about that. So it goes both ways, right? We pushed through a library that we probably couldn't afford. There's plenty of articles in the papers everywhere that say that. And the override was turned down, period. So I think we just need to look at what people are feeling, what people are spending, and it hurts for families that are moving here with a large number of kids. I mean, I'm looking at this as, what is it going to do to folks who are having to throw away diapers, right? They're heavy, they take a lot of space. What is it going to do for folks who are needing to throw away medical waste, right? It's heavy, it takes a lot of space. I understand that we need to do something here. I got that. I thought this was a bit extreme. It would have been better if we'd stuck with the 2 barrels. I don't think you would have heard much complaining about that. But it is what it is right now, and we'll just have to figure out where it goes. Thank you.
Can we take online?
Why don't we take some in the audience? Diane, so do you mind, Diane, she hasn't asked a question, and we'll get back to you.
So 2 points back to damaged bins. Very recently, within the past week, we had to replace our bin. And it was, quite honestly, a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. Well, those people are talking about, I made a single call. They took down the information. How they took down the information, did not ask me many questions, how or why. I said it was damaged. I'm not sure how it happened. And that was on a Monday, and by Thursday, which was our next pickup date, I had my replacement barrel, and they took away the old one. So from my particular experience, it couldn't have been any easier. The other point was, as it relates to medical waste, for those that may not know it, you can call the Board of Health because they have different options available, and they will provide you different options to get rid of needles and other medical waste type things. So it's just another source of information for, the things that you need to get rid of. I don't have an answer for diapers, but I do have some information for medical waste.
So we'll go to online and then Heather, if you wish. So I understand that multifamily taxpayers, you're trying to shift the burden away from, you don't use the curbside pickup, but there are many services in town, schools, roads, and public safety where usage varies and costs are still shared across the tax base. Why is trash being treated differently, and why are families being asked to take on additional usage based on costs in this case? I think, Tom, you did address that a little bit, but if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, so when the budget task force looked at sort of peer communities and what sort of the options were across all the different opportunities for savings, this is a well-established program that, as we've described before, does reflect usage. It correlates with usage. It gives everyone sort of the same access to 35, and then if people are generating more, which does create more cost for the town. It does create more cost for the tipping fees. Then they're sharing in that part of the cost just for the extra. So I think morally it's not appropriate to consider fee-for-service for things like first responder care, education. That's not our mission. That's not something we're ever going to consider, or at least I've never heard anyone want to consider it. And I think trash is something that's different. I just don't feel like it makes sense for us to continue to divert new funds to trash instead of other essential services. And doing nothing does that. Doing nothing says, we're going to vote to actually continue to divert money from other important uses into trash. And I just don't think that reflects our values or best for the town.
You mentioned something about the barrels being uniquely identified. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you read it? Is the truck reading something?
So each one will have two things. One will have a serial number, and two, they'll have an RFID tag. That's actually a requirement under the grant, and this isn't something that they can track you with. It's something that allows us to be prepared for what's probably coming in the next few years when the technology really catches up and we're able to do things like, AI-driven cameras on trucks that will check the bag to make sure it's a pay-as-you-throw bag and you can use an automated cart, or identify this cart goes with this house. They're paying for a larger cart, a smaller cart, or whatever. It's future-proofing. To the point of one being stolen, it helps us identify when a cart shows up at somebody else's house and it's got the wrong RFID. We're not going to be able to track it and know where it is, but if there's two of them, we're going to scan it and realize we've got a second cart. We won't have a scanner right away, but that'll be something that we look at with the program management as we kind of figure out what is going to be the next step when we start introducing technology into the mix.
And the serial number assigned to our house? So I'm just thinking, if it's stolen in week 1, you don't have a scanner. How do you help me out?
If it's stolen in week 1, I don't know exactly how to answer that. I don't know that we're going to assign, our detective bureau to get down there. We'll figure that out. I don't anticipate we're going to have a huge problem because they're only going to collect one card from each house. But that is one of the concerns and one of the things that we're going to have to work through with implementation.
Great, so I'm going to combine two questions online that are pretty similar. So if I need or want to keep myself to a 35-gallon tote every week, where do I get direction on how to reduce my trash stream besides regular recycling? So I want to direct this resident and other residents. The Recycling Commission's website is a huge wealth of knowledge. They actually have a whole dictionary. You type in what the thing is, and they actually have resources. Also, our goal is to bring on this operations analyst that will help improve programs to increase recycling within the town. Our volunteers have been doing an amazing amount of work over the course of their time, but they are getting tired. They need some assistance, and they need some professional help as well.
Kristen, just since we've got our colleagues here from the Recycling Commission, would you like just to say where people can go to learn more about managing the waste stream?
I'll just try to yell. So I've actually spoken to a few people from the Recycling Commission. One is here with me now, and we have definitely agreed that if anybody wants help, literally we will come to your house and help you look through your trash and figure out ways to reduce it. I mean, I'm honestly wrong. So, send an email or something, or contact us through the Facebook page, and we'll help get you situated.
It's dedication.
Really?
So, okay, so people go to the town website and they find the recycling commission page, they can click on contact us and,
I believe there should be an
email, yeah.
email address. Yeah.
okay, so they could, this Christina Green, chair of the finance committee, will come to your house and help you manage your trash. It doesn't get better than that, Westford folks.
Do you have
Any
anything else?
more things? Yes. So I do believe that, I don't think.
Yeah, you know what, let's just get this one out of circulation, Mike, because it's.
Yeah, I think we're kind of.
So I'm a member of the Recycling Commission, and I do believe that one of the ways households that fit more easily in the 35-gallon zone are just in the flow, where over time they've added more and more steps in a way that's workable for them to, over time, reduce what goes in that trash barrel and instead tap other ways to handle stuff. And some of the events that are being referred to generally are already happening twice a year in town. One's called Electronics and More, which handles almost anything with a cord, and a lot of that stuff has lead and heavy metals in it. They really aren't great to burn down the road anyway. Scrap metal, we also have a place to do that here in town, no cost. And almost all these options are low or no cost. And recently expanding to include zero waste days, which includes lots of ways to donate perfectly good things that you just don't want anymore. And most recently, you may have been hearing of Junk in the Trunk, which is like a pop-up swap shop. This started in town about 5 years ago by a real ground roots effort from folks just looking to have neighbors come together and have a fun afternoon. Backing up in a parking lot in a school and handing out stuff you don't want anymore and maybe looking around for stuff you do. And these are folding under the umbrella of Waste Less Westford and Sustainable Westford, because it just makes sense to have a fun way also to rehome this stuff. So these dates are all on the calendar, and this is exactly what Mike and Kristen are talking about, where having it twice a year is not necessarily frequent enough when it's not just the folks who are, already comfortable doing this, but looking to hopefully make more and more of the town aware of it and willing to dip their toe in it and hopefully find at least some of them quite enjoyable.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So the other question that went along with that is, how would I throw away trash that does not fit in the trash barrel and also doesn't fit in the paid bag? So one option is to see if that trash is actually recyclable and use that resource. Also, if you have something that you think does not fit in a bag or a barrel, contact our office or contact Harvey and we can see if there's some other solutions for you. Then there's a few questions about people having existing barrels and what they would do in the future. And we touched upon that a little bit, but I want to be really clear is that there's several options. You can keep those barrels for overflow bags. You can keep those barrels for recycling. And we also are working on a potential take-back day. We don't have the details yet, but stay tuned for that. Am I missing anything?
Nope, I think you got it. Make sure we got it.
I just had a question. Oh, well, two things I just wanted to mention. One was just about, I've been hearing, today a lot about renters or people, the quality, equity of their, with the recycling program. Just living in town, it makes me think of people that live here that maybe don't have children in the school system, but yet they still pay taxes and towards that. And also where I live in town, on one of the lakes, there's, I have a septic, so I pump that every year. We have well water. We don't have drain pipes where I am, but we still pay a storm fee. So just thinking of those things. I mean, I feel like the benefits of living in Westford, back 23 years ago, I'll be honest, I moved here for the school system. I'm a teacher, and I could have lived anywhere, and I kind of looked at that. So you live in the town. That's just, I don't know. Yeah. But also, I just wanted to state too, someone had mentioned to me like, oh, there's a meeting tonight, and I didn't really know much about this. I just knew that, oh, this thing might be coming, and my first reaction was, oh my God, like everything's so expensive as it is, and now I gotta buy bags somewhere, and just, thinking of that. But I have to commend you guys, listening to your presentation, I feel so different about it now. And I gotta say, I don't really, and I'm not one, I don't like the microphone, I don't like, I don't know if I'm on camera right now, but I kind of do hope this goes through because it's surrounding towns, they have a barrel like that and that's it. And that's, I'm saying at least 4 years ago, I would say. At least we have the option of buying bags and hopefully that does do something where it does help, or maybe it just stays that way. So if you need more trash, you can at least buy a bag. I know people that once it's filled, that's it. They gotta wait till the next week. And that is like 2 towns over. So at least you're trying to help in a way where you do have the option to purchase a bag, as long as we're able to get them. And they don't go out of stock. But I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for coming and thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. So town staff works incredibly hard on this, and many people in this room are volunteers, and it's just hard to calculate how much time and effort the volunteers put into this kind of stuff. So to get a little bit of positive confidence really, really helpful. Appreciate that.
So I have 3 more questions online. Again, if you have more questions, type it in, ask. I know we're getting a little bit late, so if you do need to leave, we're not offended. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your time, and visit the website. This isn't based upon pay as you throw, but I just want to read it, and we will take this under advisement. We've historically had serious issues with dumping of beer bottles, food waste, others from at East Boston camps or Stony Brook conservation land. Will there be a carry in, carry out policy for that? And how do we intend to deal with that issue? We've been having those conversations. It's not just that property. We are looking into that very seriously, so I wanted to address that while we were along. Mike, you can probably answer this question. How much money has been spent on this program for mailers, videos, and et cetera so far by the town on the pay-as-you-throw program? And I could say the video has cost us nothing. We thank WCAT for helping us with the video.